Hi, I'm Yaki Weingarten. I'm 20 and I currently live in Queens, New York. I think I'm going to start the story when I was 16. I was in the costume shop with one of my really great friends, Alana, and we're still really great friends. And I feel like this is the gayest story ever because, you know, I came out of the closet in a costume shop, so, you know, that's great. Well, we were just sort of there, and I was sort of like, you know, do you know how like people feel about, like how guys feel about girls? I feel like I feel that way about guys. And she was just like, okay. And honestly, that being my first time ever coming out to anyone, it was really pleasant because some other reactions, especially people in my family, were not the most pleasant. But that being said, I kind of like to focus on this one because often people will ask you your coming out story, and they usually mean like your parents, and my parents' one just isn't great. I grew up Orthodox, Jewish, so, and depending on how your parents are in general, they might be super hide behind the Bible thing. And I have nothing against religious people. My parents actually are also great people, but the reaction just wasn't pleasant. But I really choose not to focus on that story because I really feel like the one with Alana was just more meaningful to me, and I'm still friends with her, and she's kind of more a part of my life at this point than some people even in my family. So in that way, I feel like I came out at that point. I kind of identify as queer or gay, one of the two. I'm really not that like crazy about labels. If I found someone of any gender, I would probably go for it. So it's more like whatever, but I've actually only dated men, and primarily I find men sexually attractive, so, yeah. In high school, again, I went to a Orthodox run high school. The students there weren't, most of them weren't Orthodox Jews, but the administration was. It was also, I actually grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, so it was past the Mason-Dixon line, and this was still in the 2010s, so you would expect it to be a little bit more progressive, but again, it's still high school, and my high school is very much along the lines of, so we're just going to do the things that were in 80s movies because we feel that's what cool is. So there was actually a class which was run by other students. It's prayer service in the beginning, in the mornings, because it was a Jewish school. And in one of the prayer service, the girls' prayer service in freshman year, a guy who was a senior, because senior girls were running that prayer service, came into the room and would do polls, and one of the polls was about me and if they thought I was gay or not. Yeah, I definitely don't look back on that memory fondly or think highly of those people who involved themselves, and also people said comments and I heard about it afterwards. So that was unpleasant. I met a lot of Orthodox people that have stayed Orthodox after coming out. I have chosen not to, and that is not because of the gay thing, it's just I was never really that fond of religion or felt very spiritual in any sense. But I have found a lot of people who've stayed Orthodox and find a lot of meaning in Judaism still, even though I don't. I can because of my relationship with my parents and the way they felt about it, and I wasn't in New York at the time. New York has a very large Jewish community and has a lot of resources. So I would say seek those out if you feel like you need the support, because there's also a lot of helplines that are like geared to that community. But because I was not in the New York community and I didn't have access to these resources or even knowledge of them, I kind of broke away from Judaism, tried to find like a family or a community and other things, and I chose theater, typical. But you know, like even the theater community kind of broke away once I got into college, and sometimes it won't, and sometimes it will, and it's sort of just like communities kind of form at random points in your life, and sometimes you'll leave and sometimes you'll enter them. But I didn't reach out to my community at the time, and I think it would have been really difficult because being out in that community, because it is a small community, people talk, which I find kind of strange because one of the biggest like averas or sins is like lashon hara. It's like you're not supposed to talk bad about people or talk about people behind their back, and just like you just hear the whispers. My favorite part about being myself is the fact that, like, I have stopped caring as much about people think of me. It's because, like, realistically, like, you might not see them ever again, and keeping up appearances just seems like a lot of work, so I just let myself be quirky me, and if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. And I kind of started to really like that and embrace that. Coming out is an ongoing process, and I think when you choose, like, one that people find to be the biggest deal, because people choose your parents as the biggest deal. But, like, people come out all the time. Well, like, me, not so much, because I give off a more effeminate vibe, and I dye my hair pink and things like that, so people make an assumption. But if they don't make an assumption, you kind of have to come out all the time, and it's kind of that game. So it's like, when did you come out? It's just like, every Tuesday, I meet a new person, and it comes up in conversation, you know? Because it's always at the end of my coming out story with my parents, I usually go, but my mom's really nice, I promise. Like, she just really had a slip up. Like, those words were not the best. Didn't make her look great. Like, I don't really feel like I should be telling the story then, if I have to always give, like, a caveat. I love them still, they're my parents, and I have no grievances.